Hi everyone, I'm Jada Burt and this is In My Tracks. You know that feeling when a song comes on and it's so good that it feels like you're frozen in time? Well, that's what this podcast is all about, the songs that stopped me in my tracks. I chat with musicians about their process, challenges, and inspiration. And you discover your new favorite songs. This week on In My Tracks, we are going to flip the script and get to know each other a little better. I'm going to be in the interviewee spot, talking all things music and podcasts. And we'll also dive into some behind-the-scenes moments on the show. Let's get into it.
Jada Burt, welcome to In My Tracks, your own show. It's amazing to be here with you.
Thank you for welcoming me, Mia. I'm so happy to have you here.
Definitely. I'm stoked to be here. And, I feel like I should introduce myself to your audience since I'm a totally new voice. So I thought I'd give a little bit of background on me and kind of context and why I'm here. So my name is Mia Carruthers, and I'm Associate Creative Director at Play Audio Agency. And we work with you, Jada, and many other podcasters on producing the show. So we're a proud co-producer with you of In My Tracks. But we also do audio branding and original music for advertising communications. So we're in all kinds of spaces surrounding the kind of theme and content of In My Tracks. And personally, I'm a musician, so this hits like really near and dear to me. I'm a musician and a audio engineer and producer and copywriter. So audio and storytelling, this is my jam because this episode is all about you and flipping the script so we can learn a little bit more. So I'm excited to dive into some questions with you.
Same here. Let's get to it.
Okay. I feel like your listeners have to know, and if they don't already, how much work goes into podcasting. I mean, this is not just what you're hearing, this beautiful, polished episode. There's so much behind the scenes effort, copywriting, strategizing, editing notes and feedback, and you work so incredibly hard. So podcasting is not for the faint of heart. This is not a walk in the park. And I have to start with what is the origin story? What made you want to make this show and put all of your blood, sweat, and tears into it to make it come to life? Where did you start? What was the inspiration and I think motivation for the show?
Yeah, In My Tracks kind of started from my love of independent musicians and independent music. I go to a lot of shows here in Cincinnati, and I realized I wasn't hearing as many stories about smaller artists who are kind of getting their start and making big waves in their city, as much as I was hearing about larger artists who are kind of on the main stage. And yeah, I realized, well, if I want to hear those stories, I need to kind of create a platform for that. And that's kind of how I created the idea for In My Tracks. And kind of staying on the point of In My Tracks, there's always the one song that really draws me in to really start discovering an artist. So that was a point I kind of wanted to stick to and focus on one piece of music that really stopped me and made me realize, oh, wow, I really want to dive into this specific artist's catalog.
Yeah, I love that. And I do want to follow up with a couple questions. First of all, I love what you said about if I want to hear it in the world, I have to make it. And I feel like that's something that we talk about all the time is make the show you want to hear in the world. So I love that you did that and that you have this passion for elevating independent artists. I've been in that space myself basically my whole life. And so I love that there's someone like you that has the curiosity, but also the follow through to make this platform possible and to share these songs and to share this music. I have to know, since you're a frequent showgoer in Cincy, what are some of your favorite venues? And I know I don't want you to feel like you have to play favorites, but do you have a quintessential Cincy concert night memory or something that really blew you away or just a favorite venue?
Yes, absolutely. Cafe Vivace is my favorite venue. I feel comfortable saying that. It's the first venue that I went to after the lockdown kind of slowed down and there was a COVID vaccination and everything was opening up and people were playing again. It was the first venue where I went out to see live jazz by myself, and the staff and the owners are just such warm people and have created a space for smaller jazz artists to showcase themselves and grow and share their incredible talent with the city. And then they also create a space for national and international talent to kind of showcase their talent as well and just make such a wonderful space for live jazz that I don't see a lot. Other than that, I would say Ghost Baby is another favorite of mine just because of the coolness of it. It's one of those cooler than cool venues, and I always enjoy going there and seeing artists such as the incomparable Lauren Elise play. And
Yes. Shout
yeah,
out to
shout out to
Lauren.
her. Like it's you know you're gonna have an iconic night if you are one going to Ghost Baby and going to see her play. So yeah, those are two venues that I always look forward to seeing shows in. And then as far as concert memories, I have so many, but I will say that one of my favorites was when I saw Men I Trust in Cincinnati. I believe it was in Andrew Brady. And yeah, it was just so nice to see so many people there just having a calm night. Even though everyone was so incredibly excited to see them, it was just such a chill night in such a large venue. That doesn't happen a lot. So that one,
That's true.
yeah. So I'm like, okay, I will treasure that forever.
I love that. Yeah, Cincy has really been on the come up, I feel like, in the last 5 to 7 years with more venues of different sizes, kind of filling in the gaps between like really tiny places and, say, an arena. And that I think does so much for the community, not only for musicians, but also for music lovers and for patrons. I love that you mentioned like a jazz specific club because just like other genres, that's so important for building community. And jazz is known for that. I mean, jazz has like such a deep, rich history of community and spaces that are facilitating, like feeding into that community. So I love that that's something you shouted out. Definitely check it out. I know I haven't been there, so I really want to go check that out as well. Seeing live jazz is like everything to me. I think it's so
Yes.
important to me. I think we both have a jazz background, so we're both like heads that love to go support this music. And unlike other genres like indie rock or something, like it needs a little bit more support. Like it doesn't have the same kind of awareness and audience as like other more kind of popular music-based genres have. So definitely shout out to that. I love that. Speaking of kind of jazz, what we're listening to, music love, tell me more about like your history with music. Like when did you start loving music? When did the bug bite you? Was it your parents? Was it school? Was it you playing? Like what's your musical kind of origin story?
I would say my love of music started when I was just a small child, but growing up, I heard music all the time. Like my dad would play music loud, my mom would play it loud. And so I was able to hear iconic artists such as Stevie Wonder and kind of have my dad maybe give a little ad lib like, do you hear those lyrics? Yeah, don't believe in things you don't understand. Like, and little little micro lessons between songs.
Commentary.
Yes, and like maybe my mom like blasting the incredible album between like Justin Timberlake and Timberland, like "What Goes Around Comes Around," songs like that. Like hearing, yeah, those 2000s, early 2000s hits, hearing those played loud, that provided a lot of inspiration for me. And then once I was in like fourth grade or so, I started kind of trying to dig into music myself and figure out what I like. I had my dad burn a little CD for me called Jada's Jams.
Of course.
Yeah,
Not going to be called anything else.
really,
Literally.
it could not. And so there were just the iconic tunes of the time, songs by Sierra and Beyonce,
Yes.
the greats. I was always obsessed with songs and compiling lists and stuff. And then I started getting a little bit into bands at the end of, maybe fourth and fifth grade, starting with the Beatles. They, of course, broke my brain. And I was like, wow, like 4 people can work together and make all this music. I was just obsessed with them. I was truly in a trance for years and years once I had discovered them. And yeah, I just couldn't stop
Still
listening.
are,
Yeah, I really
I'm
am.
sure.
Yeah, just obsessed.
It's music that like I think continues to impress me the older I get, and sometimes that works in reverse of music you liked when you were younger and then you grow up and you kind of grow out of it. And I feel like with the Beatles it's the opposite. It's like I'm still growing to a level of understanding with this music. I'm still discovering new parts about it, and it's like hidden genius. The layers of genius that are happening is truly mind-blowing. So I really feel you on that. And I love an artist that you can kind of grow old with. And I mean, they're at the top of that list for sure.
Yeah, they really are.
For sure. Let's talk about that. So I heard on the internet, I read this somewhere. I don't know if it was a meme or what it was. I cannot cite my source, but I read something that said the music you love, 14 or 15, can define your music taste for the rest of your life. Do you agree with this? Do you disagree with this? And what were those like early adolescence bands or artists for you that really locked it in, connected you to your feelings?
One, I strongly agree with that. I think 14 and 15-year-old me just had such wonderful taste, and it was built from middle school me. So by the time I hit 14 and 15, I was there, just impeccable taste. So shout out to her. I was I wasn't emo, but I listened to a lot of sad music. High school was tough, so I was really
Same girl.
I wouldn't go back. Like, I listened to Jeff Buckley on loop. He was my
Wow, that is some
go-to.
deep sad.
Yes,
That's some deep sad.
Mhm.
Okay, that I was waiting for the level of sad that, and then you went to the depths,
Yeah,
the bottom of the pit of sadness.
Yep.
Jeff Buckley. Okay, love. Also stunning.
Yes,
Stunning.
I mean, there's not an album out there quite like Grace. I mean, I played that on loop, and from there I listened to a lot of Nirvana. I listened to Lana Del Rey, Frank Ocean. There was just a huge mix of tunes going in there, but my go-to, because of her range, was Lady Gaga. She had the sad, she had the happy, she had the dancey. And that started in 2008.
She's got the country.
Yes.
She's got the show tune. She's everything. Yeah, I'm
All
a
of
huge
it.
Gaga fan too. I love that.
All of it.
Love, love, love. I don't know if I told you this, but there was when Ultra Violence came out, that Lana Del Rey record, I was obsessed with it and I listened to it like day and night, nonstop, on repeat. And at one point my dad was like in the car or something with me as I'm listening to it. And I'm like, I just have to put the song on. Like, I have to put this record on. It's all I think about. And he was like, but like, are you okay? Like, he was low key worried about my mental state or something. I don't know. He was like, this is a red flag. But I was like, I can't quit it. It's just too good. It's too beautiful. And I think that's the record that Dan Auerbach produced with her. And it's kind of that more like live band on a soundstage feeling. And it's just so amazing. So I just had to shout that record out real quick.
I love Ultraviolence. that was one of the ones that came out when I was in high school. That was on loop. I couldn't put it down either. But I was like, okay, this is not good for my health. Like, please. But
it's dark.
Yeah,
it's a dark place.
I
The
didn't
mind
stop.
of Lana. Yeah.
Wouldn't stop though.
What else? Where do you feel like your music has like your taste in music, I guess, has evolved from there? I mean, because you were like killing it from day one. Like these are I don't hear one like embarrassing or you have no misses in this list. So where did you even go from there? This already impeccable start.
Yeah, I'm really trying. I'm pulling at straws here because I was like listening to all of that. I was really obsessed with Queen and then opera music as well. When I was feeling extra dramatic, listened to a lot of Weezer, to Sublime. But I think once I started listening to bands, I just like couldn't stop listening to bands. And I'm trying to figure out if I have an embarrassing artist.
You mean band like rock band? Like you got into like rock music, you got into maybe indie rock, classic rock.
Yes.
folk rock, like all that kind of stuff. I have a
Mhm.
question for you about discovery, because I know for me, like in high school, this was pre-Spotify, right? Spotify is like 2011, I want to say.
Yes.
So before Spotify hit, I really found so many of the artists I love still today on Sirius XMU, that kind of like university college station that's on Sirius XM. Shout out to them, because that's how I discovered like Fox. They always had the new kind of like Sufjan record going. They always had so many cool indie bands and artists that I fell in love with. Did you ever listen to XMU, or how are you finding this music in a pre Spotify world?
Honestly, I was really into Pandora. I would create little radios where I would just like let it open. Like I might create a radio for just a specific artist, maybe Sarah Bareilles, and then I'd just let it play because I never like paid for it. So I would just be like, what?
Rocking the ads.
Yep. I'm like, maybe I can deal with these similar artists. And then from there, I would just like rock with those similar artists until I could hear another Sarah Bareilles song. Same with literally every artist. I think it was all just from dealing with ads and the extra songs that are sprinkled in when you want to listen to an album on a free Pandora account.
Shout out to Pandora though, because that was the original algorithm. I definitely followed that rabbit hole. It led me to some cool places. I mean, Spotify's taken it to a whole new level, but like Pandora had to walk for Spotify to run.
It did.
On
It did.
with this algorithm.
Nope, I will never forget it. I will never forget it. And I did. I do want to give credit because I got a lot of artists from friends. I might go over to a friend's house and they might just be playing music that their parents owned or just music on YouTube because that was the thing too. And I would just kind of like pick out what I liked and I'm like, I'll take this. I'll leave that. This music works for me. I'm gonna listen to this when I get home. Like so, yeah. A lot of that kind of morphed into my taste as well.
Totally. Friend sharing is huge. Like if you have siblings, I know that's how I got into kind of like, I don't know, pop punk emo from my older brother. And I think there's a lot of like music sharing within families, obviously, too. You mentioned your parents, which that is so formative. I feel like that's really huge. I'm still discovering the impacts of kind of what my individual parents' listening habits are and how they've kind of fused to be a huge part of my personal aesthetic, even as like a writer and a player. So it's still blowing my mind, like that fusion and how important and influential that is to your little developing brain. I want to get back to podcasting, to the show, and how did you get into podcasts? So you've always been an avid music listener, but when did that transition? Because podcasts are, still sub 20 years old. So do you remember kind of when you first started hearing about them, and what was the first podcast you listened to?
Yeah, I was pretty late to the podcast game. I didn't listen to them until I started working my first like office job in an ad agency, and I didn't know what to listen to all day because I just made this huge playlist full of songs that I liked during the time. And I was like, well, this playlist is great. It's about 8 hours long, but I can't listen to this every single day. And I was getting tired of listening to, full albums every day too. And so I was like, what do people listen to all day? And I was chatting with a coworker who was also my age. And she was like, well, I'm really into true crime podcasts, and that's what I listen to all day. And so I was like, well, that sounds so boring. I can't listen to people talk all day. Like, I'm already talking to
Yeah,
people
you're
all
like, I
day.
do that in regular life.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't need.
Yep. I'm like, this makes no sense. I thank you for your input, but I will not be doing that. And so, yeah, I think a few more weeks passed, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to give this a chance. I already have the app on my phone. And I think I started by listening to a couple of maybe newer true crime podcasts like Crime Junkie. But from there, I was like, well, I'm into music. So what do they have? What are some music podcasts that I could listen to? And so from there, I found Dissect, and I was just so obsessed. I was like, this is the greatest thing I've ever heard in my life, and I love it. So yeah, that was back in 2019, and I was like, wow, I how have I lived a life before I listened to Dissect, and and then
Totally.
yeah, it was just incredible. And then from there, I got really into Zane Lowe. I'd say he was like probably the biggest inspiration for making this podcast. I love how personal he is able to get with musicians and how comfortable he's able to make other people when they're in his presence. And so that was another podcast and interview series that I really jumped on to. And yeah, they made me realize that I love listening to stories all day. And then I eventually was like, well, I want to hear more and from artists who don't really get a light shined on them.
Definitely. I can see all the pieces coming together. I have to know though, did you ever get into true crime podcasts? This reco from the friend, did it ever happen for you?
It did. I do indulge. I listen to, Dateline, and I like stuff from ID. I do listen to, the true crime podcast too. But yeah, they take a back seat, but I did get on the train. I didn't get obsessed, but
It's hard to avoid, really.
They
like,
are.
I don't even like that stuff at all, and it still got me.
Yeah.
Eventually, I had to drive all through the night at one point from Rockford, Illinois. I mean, tour life, music
Yes.
life. We do crazy things, especially when we're younger, that we shouldn't do. Do not try this at home. But yeah, I was driving through the night to get my friend back from Rockford, Illinois to Cincinnati for her job the next day. And we had gone on this crazy, like, last minute trip, whatever. So I had to drive through the night, and I'm like, I got to stay awake. Like, this has to be safe. And so I'm drinking like probably something like Red Bull, and I put on this podcast that everyone had been talking about, which was Serial. So I know this was like the main gateway drug or whatever for true crime podcast for a lot of people. And let me tell you, it did a very good job of keeping me awake and alert at the wheel. I would even go so far as to say I was literally scared in a vehicle going like 65 miles an hour. Like, no, nothing can get you. Like, it's like the safest position you could possibly be in. And I was like actively terrified. So watch out, people. The true crime podcasts, they come for us all eventually. Even if you think you've avoided them, one's going to get you
Yes.
at some point.
Like, it
Absolutely.
works. True crime, it works. I mean,
Yeah,
sold.
It works. A hilarious thing for a coworker to listen to all day at work. Also, that's a crazy flex.
Exactly.
I'm like, what do the aliens think about that? We're like sitting in an office listening to horror, basically,
Yeah.
all day long.
Truly, though, I mean, I gave it a listen one day, and I was like, I'm listening to stories about people being dismembered, and I'm facing this person who listens to that all day. I'm like, what do you see when you look at me? I'm like, what?
It's a red flag.
Yep.
It's a red flag.
Come
I'm
on.
glad you're not there anymore.
Yep.
Yeah.
Seriously.
But hope she's okay. Hope
Yes.
she's okay. Speaking of kind of what we're listening to, what are you listening to right now? And where do you like to listen? I know we've mentioned a couple other things throughout time. We had the YouTube game and like the YouTube kind of rabbit hole for a while, Pandora. But what are you listening to now, and where?
I am constantly just falling victim to having one song on loop for 7 days straight. And right now, I have been listening to Sam Evian a lot. He is one of my favorite artists right now, and I've had his 2 albums on loop, You Forever and then Time to Melt. He writes in such a range, like from alternative to kind of folky sounding to poppy. So it's just a nice range of music to listen to. But I haven't been able to stop listening to his music, and I'm super excited to hear his new album, Plunge, coming out later this year. And
wow, I love the plug.
yeah,
Love the plug.
right. I don't know how to
Are you
be
working for him? What's
quite literally, I don't know how to be like a nonchalant listener. I really don't. I wish I knew how to do that. Like,
I, I love that. I love that. Musicians need that, you know? Like we need the avid fan support for sure. So I love that. I'm not familiar, so I'm definitely going to be going to check out his music or their music stat. So I would love to know more. Do you know where Sam Evian is from?
yes, I know he's New York based.
Okay.
Yeah, playing in the Catskills. So
Ooh.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, right in the
That's
woods.
fun.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm always happy about new music and large catalogs for me to listen to until the new music comes.
Right?
Yep.
Binging on a catalog, there's nothing better. It's I love when you find that and you're like, wait, there are 5 albums? Like, yes, what a jackpot. That's like the
Exactly.
best feeling ever.
Yep. You're like, I will be listening. And then from there,
Yes.
I'm mainly like listening to artists who I plan to see this year. So Sam is one of them. But Green Day, I am really obsessed with them, and I don't know. Once I start listening back to that music, I cannot stop. And so I'm like, dang, I'm in my angsty era again. So that would be 21st Century Breakdown. That album is my jam.
Mm-hmm.
So played that.
Classic.
Yeah, cannot stop playing that.
Did you see them in their like Jimmy Fallon Subway performance where they're undercover? Did you see that recently?
I did. I did. I was like, man, another reason that I need to move. Like, how does this keep happening? It's incredible. But no, that's the sort of thing where I'd be like, if I saw that live, I'd be like, okay, well, I've done everything I needed to do. I can go live in the
Yeah.
woods now. Thank
Sign
you.
off.
Like, thank
Good
you.
night and good luck.
Yep.
Yes. Fade into the sunset.
Quite literally. You guys have fun. And then I've been listening a lot to Nat and Alex Wolf, a brother duo. There's something about brothers working together that is just so sweet, and they make such incredible music. They used to be the Naked Brothers band on Nickelodeon, and they were my jam when I was a little wee thing too.
What?
Yes. So, yep,
They made it out alive.
They really did. But yeah, just another
Snaps.
another example of me just having the same taste since I was in elementary school and only expanding from there.
It happens. It happens. I have a set of brothers I'm obsessed with listening to right now, which is Hermano Gutierrez. And it's like instrumental, sort of Spanish style guitar, but it's super dusty. It has like a very like Western sort of Texan lean to it. It is so stunning. It's like reverb, beautiful, just cool guitar instrumental music. Like, highly recommend. It's like my favorite thing to cook to. It's a great thing to drive to. It's just stunning. So they are brothers. They're from Switzerland actually, which is so weird. When you hear the music, you like definitely think that they're from like South or Central America, and it's like, no, it's not that at all. But they have that influence, and they are absolutely crushing it right now, which I also think is so fascinating that this instrumental duo has millions of monthly Spotify listeners. I think it's just like such a cool trend.
Yeah, I will definitely be listening to that. I love instrumental music, and I just
Check
want
it out.
Yeah, I need it to keep like gaining popularity.
It is. I feel like it's really having a moment right now. I'm serious. I see it everywhere, and there's all of these bands that even like in the Austin scene where I am that I'm seeing just like skyrocketing. So I think this is your time. If you're an instrumental music lover, now is your time right now.
Yes.
Things are happening. Things are surging. Keep an eye out.
Yes, thank goodness. Because, yeah, I mean, I dig bands like Krungbin, too. Like,
yeah, also an Austin band. Mm-hmm. Hell yeah.
Yep, we love the Austin scene. Yep, it's incredible.
Absolutely. Totally. I have an audible question I have to throw out here because it's It's been something I was thinking about today, and I was like, you know what? I got to sneak one question that we haven't talked about prior on here because, like, it wouldn't be me if I didn't mess with you a little bit. So, but I'm gonna be nice. But I want to know, like, and this could just be totally off the cuff. Like, whoever comes to mind first. It could be weird. It could be whatever. But right now, who would you most want to like sit down and have lunch with? Like an artist or a band that you would most like to go get a cup of coffee and just have like an hour chat? Who's the first person who comes to mind?
James Blake. And
yeah.
Yep.
Same. We have the same answer.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
I mean, he just seems so open and just willing to talk about anything. And I'm just talking about the interviews I've seen with him speaking with Zane Lowe and then other interviewers as well. He just seems so down to earth, and I feel like I would learn so much from him just in a setting like that.
Yeah, I totally agree. He is so cool. I think he is kind of salt of the earth and just no airs. And his music is incredible. Obviously, he's an amazing producer. I think he's kind of a boundary pushing, like highly influential producer of our time. But he's also my favorite live performance that I've ever seen. I truly like lost it. I saw him at ACL and I like converted my fiance into a mega fan that day because he was like, "Oh yeah, I've heard James Blake, whatever." But we're like standing there, like tears just like streaming down our face. It was so incredible. It was so profound, and just the work that he does on keys and like his synth work is unbelievable. It's unmatched. I could literally spend the rest of our time talking about James Blake, but I'm not going to. But thank you so much for answering that question with literally my favorite artist. Selfishly, I thank you for that.
Yes. I mean, I'm closer now because I know someone who's seen him live. That's just he's on my bucket list. I really want to see him live. I mean, please.
You have to make it happen.
It needs to happen.
Bump it up to the top. It is so profound. And I know he just toured, so it might be a little bit, but just keep your eye out. Hit that Bands in Town or whatever you use to keep track of people. But yeah, it will truly blow your mind, especially since you're already a super fan.
Yeah. I can't wait. Please go on tour again. Please tour the last album again. Please,
James. Yeah. Yes, please play that cover of the song you and Frank Ocean wrote, which I cover, Godspeed.
Oh, yeah.
I'm obsessed with that song, and yeah, his version of it. He has this whole kind of like just him on grand piano EP. Have you listened to this?
Yes.
I can't even talk about it without crying. So I'm going to have to like pivot into another question before I start just exploding with emotion.
No, I understand. And why did I literally played that covers album a lot while I was driving to work. Like that was my commute EP. And I was like, why do you play this every day? It's silly. Like you're just putting yourself in a mood. Yeah, you're making yourself sad. Like, and then I'm like, well, you're right. I could listen to an album, but then the album at the time, the newest one was "Friends That Break Your Heart," and I was like, well, God. I'm not listening to this one every day. And then time passed. So last year, playing "Robots into Heaven," I was like, well, this is some sort of return to form, and I love it. But if I listen to the lyrics too hard, I'm like, here we go again. Here we go again.
God damn it, James.
You really do it. You really do it. Great job, sir.
Yes. Hats off to you, James Blake. We love you. Jamila, shout out to you too. We also love you. Jamil. They're a partnership that I just recently found out about. That blew my mind.
Yes.
And wish them all the happiness in the world.
Same here. Icon. I mean, we do. Icon. We both love Bad Dates too. So
yes. Yep. Also, we love Jamil's comedy podcast called Bad Dates, where she has comedians on and they talk about their disastrous dating mishaps. And it is truly phenomenal.
Yep. Talent. Just too much talent to share. Thank you for sharing it, truly.
Yes, we salute you. Okay. So we're in a new year. We are now in 2024. And I just want to say congratulations on a season 2 of In My Tracks. Like, we're all so excited for you and just stoked to continue the collaboration. So I just can't wait for the drop.
Thank
Can't wait for
you.
season 2.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited and, ready for everyone to hear it.
Totally. Looking back to 2023, that was the launch of your baby, the first season, your first podcast. And I have to know, if 2023 were a song, and it could be any song, what would it be for you and why? And I want to know the story behind it. This is In My Tracks.
I didn't have a song until a few minutes before we started talking. So the song that defined 2023 for me was Hard to Let Go by Midnight Trust. I had it on loop, played that all the time. I could play it for 30 minutes straight and I would not get tired of it. I just had to like walk away myself and just say like, enough. You listen to it enough today. Like, you need to listen to something else so you don't burn yourself out.
You're putting parental controls on your own music listening. Like, okay, that
Truly,
shutting it down.
Truly, I've done it too many times where I can no longer listen to a song for a while or even an album for a while because I just played it. I just played it out like it was too much. So that was my song.
Yes.
And when I look back, I believe that song defined 2023 for me because it was hard for me to let go of a lot of things. And I would say including season 1 of In My Tracks because I just had the hardest time like releasing it and just letting it go and being done with it. And I would say that kind of was a pattern in my life that year. I just wanted everything to go to plan and just like be perfect and be exactly how I pictured in my head. And so, yeah, that song naturally was the song I was constantly listening to while I was going crazy.
Yes. Ugh, thanks for sharing that. And I know it's hard. Okay, as a recovering perfectionist, that truly and really resonates with me. I want to know what else you're looking forward to this year. Like, what else are you meditating on? What are you excited about? It could be with the show. It could just be in your own personal life. What's coming up next?
Yeah, that is a wonderful question that I really wanted to be proactive about this year. I'm really placing a lot of value into supporting live music this year, local live music as well. I see El Ritmo del Mañana all the time here in Cincinnati, but I also want to put in a lot of effort into seeing artists in different cities such as Chicago and Nashville. So that's where I'll be seeing Sam Evian, and then also I plan to see Green Day. Trying to connect with my younger self has been a big thing I'm trying to do. So that involves kind of seeing those artists who really influenced kind of my taste and the music I like and the kind of music I want to make. Like that, yeah, that's something I'm putting a lot of effort into. And within my tracks, I just want to continue finding artists who I feel like are doing big things but aren't getting the press they deserve to get. And so just making an effort to build a community and kind of invite people into that community is something that I plan to put in a lot of time in as well.
I love that so much. I love the intentionality around going to see live music. And I think for anybody who's either in music, in the music industry, as an artist, on the business side, sometimes we can forget to do that, and that is so important. I think that's part of what got us all into this in the first place. And so I really love hearing that from you. And let that be a reminder to everyone listening to go support live music this year. It means so much for all of our businesses. It really does move the needle. So I love that, Jada. Jada, thank you so much for having me today on In My Tracks and for letting me host you as a little cameo. I know I got to know you a little bit more today, and I just had a blast getting to talk music all things James Blake, etc. with you. So thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to In My Tracks. The show was created and produced by me, your host and friend, Jada Burt. And shout out to Play Audio Agency for recording, editing, and producing the show, and for composing the original theme music you are currently jamming out to. Please rate, review, and follow In My Tracks everywhere you listen, including Spotify, where I curate playlists that pair with each episode. Did you hear a song that stopped you in your tracks? Share it with me. DM me on Instagram at InMyTracksPod, because music is meant to be shared. See you next time.